Some of the roasters were really a no debate because now Miriam Matembe is like, Miriam Matembe was just nailed
freestyle
on. From the musical world, we ended up getting GNL Zamba. We looked into the media space, we ended up getting Prima Simwe. We ended up looking in the movie world, we ended up getting Nana Kaga. So when you get the roasters, it helps you also in what material you're going to create. And also, we were looking at roasters who also have what we call fodder. People who have things you can chew on. So for example, like now Gaetano has a huge story. This is a guy who was on Big Brother. Mm-hmm. We all know what he did on Big Brother. Then he's a radio personality. He has been on East Africa's Got Talent. He has been on Tasker Project Fame. So a person like that has plenty that, we can pick on. Then we had Sheila Gashumba, who is also a whole other different person of her own. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk to them. Let's talk chicka. Let's talk to them. Let's talk to them. Let's talk to them. Let's talk chicka. Let's talk to them. Yeah, I'm from a beautiful place, the Pearl of Africa. Hailing with a 256, it's in my blood. That's a gem where the mountains rise, with stories untold. The tapestry of cultures unfolding, so vibrant and bold. A symphony of stars, a celestial light. The drums beating, echoing through the night, just like a beacon of light. A reflection that's coming up from the Nile. I'm flowing straight into the heart of Africa with timeless stories untold. What's up, dog?
Elevate your podcast game today. Are you looking for a perfect place to record your podcast in Kampala? Look no further. Downsoft Studios, located at Ivory Plaza on Wilson Street, Level 3, Room 4, is a perfect place for you. Downsoft Studios has professional recording equipment, comfortable and creative environment, expert for all your podcast needs. Book your session today. Find them on all social media platforms or reach out to them directly to secure your spot. Let them make your podcast dream a reality. Downsoft Studios, where stories come to life.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go!
Let's get it! Today on the Ugandan Boy Talk Show, we sit down with one of the most influential voices in Uganda's comedy scene, Timothy J. Nyanzi. He's a stand-up comedian, a writer, a director, and a visionary behind Uganda's first fully operational club comedy, the Laughing Maraboustork. From writing for Anne Kansime to mentoring the next generation comedians, Timothy's journey is as powerful as it is hilarious. We talk comedy, creativity, mentorship, and what it really takes to build an industry from ground up. Let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast, Timothy.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing, my brother? I know we've been talking a little bit before the camera started, but like, how is life? How are you doing?
Life is good. I'm not complaining. I'm very, very grateful for where I am thus far. And we keep working. We keep moving, and we see where we get.
When did you first hear about the Ugandan Boy Talk Show podcast?
The first time I heard about the podcast was through friends. I used to have a couple of friends come up to me and were like, man, I heard Salvador saying this about you. I had Anne saying this about you. I'm like, where? They're like, there's this podcast, you should check it out. So I was like, okay. And then you find another person is like, hey man, I heard about you. You find another person, I heard about you. So I was like, let me check it out. So I did, I watched a few episodes and I liked what I saw. And then, I'm here now.
I'm really happy that you're here because your friends were right. Salvador and Anne Kansime mentioned you here, and we're going to talk about some of that stuff that they talked about here, and also just covering your own journey. But this is also a reminder to everybody. I'm thankful to all of you that are listening right now, and those of you that have subscribed, but continue to subscribe, continue passing on the information. And like you've heard from Mr. Timothy, that the reason he's here is because friends were telling him about this podcast that he's been mentioned on. So tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and we keep growing. So if you've not hit the subscribe button, just do it right now. Thank you. So on the podcast, we have a different segments that we're going to walk through. The first one I always have is called This or That. This is a fun little, it's kind of like a game, but the questions are light, relatable, and fun. So you shouldn't, and nothing will get you off guard. And you're free to explain, or you're free to tell me, I don't feel like explaining. Let's move on to the next question. I'll take that too. But the only thing you can't do is, the final answer. Yeah, you can say, the only thing you can't do is say both. We don't take both here. You just pick one. The first one, writing jokes or performing them?
That's a very tough one. How would you start like this? I guess performing them edges out writing them, because there's a certain satisfaction that comes with seeing the joke that you wrote working, and it is a very unmatched level of satisfaction. So yeah, I would go for performing the joke.
Comedy show at a stadium or an intimate club gig?
An intimate club gig, because the people are more close. It's easier to establish the rapport. While working a stadium and those big venues, you need to really know your way around it. Because sometimes if the sound is slightly even off like this, then you won't have the room.
Uganda Rolex or Nairobi Nyama Choma?
I've actually tested the Nairobi Nyama Choma, but yeah, the Ugandan Rolex for me, all day, every day. Majabiri nyanyambisi.
Yeah, Majabiri nyanyambisi.
Yeah.
I used to love Rolex.
Have to be in BC.
I like that Ugandans, when somebody is coming from a different country, they promote their Rolex. Like, that's the first thing that they give. Hey, try our Rolex. Before you try anything, try this Rolex.
Because they're not going to take them out for pizza. They probably have it in their country. So,
working alone or in a creative team?
You said I can't say both. I would say creative team, because working alone, you're in your own space, you're in your own zone, kind of. But when you're working with a creative team, there's all these ideas coming in, and then it's easier to feed off someone else's energy, and you create something. And also when you're working with a team, there's something you could say, and then you see the reaction of other team members, and you're like, yeah, I know this would work. If this guy can react to it like this, then it will work. But when you're working alone, it's you and God. Basically, you're like, you have to trust that, okay. But with a team, you have that liberty to judge.
But also, I think that question has another side to it. It depends on the team. Because if the team you're working with is just diverting you from what you're trying to get, then you would rather work alone. But if the team is actually coming together to deliver, there's...
The team, of course, matters a lot, because teamwork, the team has to have a certain level of cohesion, a certain level of chemistry, of understanding. And then if all that is spot on, then you'll produce some magic.
The last one, big laughs or deep impact?
I think I would go for the impact over the laugh. Since I can't go for both, I would go for the impact, which is a lesson I had to learn earlier on in my career. A lot of times, a lot of young comedians do jokes to create laughter, but at the end of that laughter, there's supposed to be a greater purpose to why you're doing comedy. Like, what is the take home? When someone goes home, have you left them with some bit of like take home, something they could go back home and, swap their minds around? For example, I've done jokes about, like, say, a nocturnal animal. And if you didn't know what a nocturnal animal is, when you go back home, at least you have a take home. So I think it's the deep impact for me.
And I know that question is tricky, because being a comedian, also the big laugh is a sign of like, okay, they got it. Or like the impact is also like, I see where you can fight to get a both in there. So yeah, but I like where you took it. That was our this or that. And now we're going to go into our segment of like just learning about you, what you've done, what you've achieved, and your journey in comedy. But we'll start from all the way back. Where did you grow up, and what was your childhood like?
I was born 1990 and I grew up in Gaba. That's pretty much where I grew up up to university. So I grew up in Gaba. My childhood was a fun one. We are 4 in the family, a brother and 2 other sisters. So it was not a big family. It was a small family. And it was fun growing up in Gaba, near the lake. Gaba Beach by then was, it was a thing back then. So I remember Frigo Band coming through. The Ebonies used to come through. It was like a thing, like Christmas. That was the place to go. And so it was fun times growing up in Gaba.
Was KK in Gaba too? Or KK is a different place?
Yeah, KK is in Gaba, yes.
Yeah, I used to go to KK a lot.
It's also in Gaba. So the fish, eating the fish. No regrets.
No, it's fun. Actually, you mentioned those beaches. I'm like, I remember, because for me, I lived in Wakiso. And we used to go all the way to come to Gaba. And remember my first ever show, Radio and Weasel. They came to KK. That one, and then we watched them there. That was fun times.
It was the cricket oval of back then.
Yeah, for real.
Like if you're a musician and you've not done Gaba Beach, like what? You need to work hard.
Yeah, for real. What did Timothy dream of becoming before comedy? Because I know you mentioned university and all that growing up. What did you want to do before comedy? Or is comedy something you wanted since childhood?
Comedy is not something I've always wanted to do since childhood. Growing up, I wanted to be a pilot because, once again, there was a landing site in Gaba.
Gaba Kalomatendo.
I wanted to be a pilot growing up because I was fascinated by planes. Mm-hmm. For some reason, but later on, as the more I started, I started school and everything. Went to secondary school. I realized sciences were not my best, my best of subjects. So and I was a very good artist, fine artist.
Yeah.
So I started throwing away the chemistry, the biology, and I was like, let's go in for the arts. So the comedy came in much later, like around campus.
That is funny that you mentioned wanting to be a pilot, because that was my dream when I was younger. Because I was fascinated by planes. I always liked airplanes, seeing them up there, and I got lucky. That's why I moved to the United States to do aviation. And when I mentioned this story, a lot of people might think, "Oh, you're a planty kid." I wasn't a planty kid, my friend. And I wasn't a planty kid. My whole story is on the podcast. Actually, some people have asked me to do the story of how I ended up to do that. But long story short, I work in aviation right now. That's my full-time job. And that was my dream. So when you talk about airplanes, that's something that goes down to heart. And I like that.
Surprisingly, my first passport, it expired without me getting any stamp in it.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I got my first passport after senior 6, and that's the one that I used to go. I first went to Kenya because my mom is Kenyan, and then the next one was to go to America, and everything worked out.
It's funny how things work out, because my second passport, literally after getting it, like was it like 2 months or something, and then voila, I was flying out of the country.
You mentioned you have other siblings, and you said you were 4. Were you always the funniest in the family or at school?
The funniest? I wouldn't say I was the funniest. I think humor is something that I developed the more I grew, the more I became older. When I was young, it was basically no. I wasn't. I could say while growing up, I wasn't as funny or deliberately funny. But the more I grew up, the more I think the funny bone started to develop.
You said comedy came
my
into
dad, my dad. I think now that you mention, I think my dad is actually the funniest.
Okay.
My dad actually supports us, but it's like one of those. It's like one of those guys who, I don't think I've seen a bigger troll than my dad.
Yeah.
Like literally, sometimes when they're even beating Manu, he will call you. He will call you and he's like, I'm traveling, I've not managed to watch the game. What's the score? Yet you can literally hear the radio in the car and he's listening to the game and he's telling you.
We was like doing that with my dad. My dad did not support any team, but he was always supporting the team that beats Arsenal. For him, that's his team. Any team that beats Arsenal.
When he knows Arsenal is versing a big team, like say Arsenal is versing like a Man City or Liverpool, it's like, tomorrow I have to be up early for work, so I'll not be able to watch the game. And then he goes to the bedroom. But then when they take the lead, he comes out.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, my dad would always troll me because for him, he didn't follow Premier League that much. But any team that beats Arsenal, Jawagira, that's the one he supports. You mentioned like comedy came a little later in your life, like at Compass. What was the turning point like for you? And you're like, okay, I'm going to pursue comedy.
So I'm at the university, Makerere University, and I go to Livingstone. I had a friend who used to put up in Livingstone. So I go there to hang out, and he had a lecture to attend. So it was like, just make yourself comfortable. There's some stuff on my computer. You can watch a few of it. You can find whatever you can watch, and then I'll be here in like 2 hours or something. So I scroll through, and then I land on Chris Rock's "Kill the Messenger." I watched it, and then he also had Trevor Noah's Daywalker, and then I watched it. But like, have you ever watched something and you know this is something you've always wanted to do, but like you've never known how to do it? And then for me, that was like that was it. When I watched Daywalker and I watched Kill the Messenger, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I need to be doing. I need to find out how to do this exact same thing that these guys have just done. So that was like my light bulb moment. And then from that moment on, I started digging up literally everything online that there was about Chris Rock. And then you know how the internet works. When you check out Chris Rock, they're like comedians who like Chris Rock, may also like Dave Chappelle, may also like so and so.
Yeah.
So I ended up, it became a thing for me. Okay, Richard Pryor. Okay, who's Richard Pryor? Okay, this. So I became a student of the game. And then I started even online tutorials. How do you write a joke? How do you do this? How do you stand when you're on stage? To the tiniest bits. How do you hold the microphone? How do you do this? How do you do? I started reading stand-up comedy blogs. I went online. I googled simplest things to do at an open mic at what. So I consumed all this knowledge, and then down the road I built my first 5 minutes, and then started looking out for where comedy was happening, and I was like, I need to give this thing a go.
So you would say you are a self-taught comedian?
Yes, I would say that.
Would you think it was just an inborn talent? Like the talent was there, you had not just discovered it?
That as well. But I think I've always been a fan of hip-hop music. So I used to listen to my favorite hip-hop artist is Kanye West.
Okay.
So I grew up on a lot of Kanye West, Late Registration, College Dropout. Then I listened to a lot of Common. I listened to a lot of Lupe Fiasco. And when you look at the kind of music they do, it's heavy on the lyricism and the double word entendres, and they have all this wordplay and things like that. So I was consuming a lot of that. I think that also built the style of comedy that I do, because I'm a one-line comedian. I'm a one-line type of comedian. So I was heavy on that. So I think when I ended up seeing what stand-up comedy was, I was already a few steps ahead in terms of, what a punchline is, maybe a pun, a wordplay. I just didn't know that this is it. But yeah, when I interfaced with comedy, then it clicked. It was like a 360 for me, full circle.
That is amazing, because it's to dig deep into the behind the scenes of who Timothy is today, like how you get to that point. It's fascinating to just learn about it. And I was just talking to people, even I put a clip, like we grew up thinking like being successful is when you become a pilot, when you become a doctor, when you become this. But here you are, even though you had a dream to be a pilot, but you took a different path and you're still successful, because we're going to dig deep into what you have achieved to this point. And it came to self-taught. And people are using internet for wrong reasons right now. But like, here you are, you Google this, you Google that, you put it together, and it makes you a career that you're doing today. So that's really fascinating for me, and to see you doing that. When you're not writing jokes or mentoring or performing, what are you doing?
It's the sports for me, because I'm a big sports fan. So it's much of the time it's the football. And the funny thing with sports is that sports never ends. If football is ending, then the NBA is going on. If the NBA is not on, then there's a Grand Prix happening. If the Formula One is off, there's probably a Grand Slam. Right now there's Wimbledon going on. I'm excited for the finals. So I'm very big on sports. Lakers, Man United. I used to be a Roger Federer fan, and now he retired. So I'll have to roll with Yannick Sinner. And Formula One. I watch the Formula One, not team specific, but I watch Formula One as well. So it's the sports for me when when the comedy is aside.
I love comedy, and this is why I love to interview comedians, and I've had a few on this podcast already. But the reason why I love comedians is like how you have the power to make another person smile with just saying something. That is mind-blowing to me. And my favorite comedian, a lot of people don't think he's funny, but I love Kevin Hart. For Kevin Hart, yes, I love his comedy, but I like his personal life as a person, like outside comedy. And he's a hardworking guy. That's why I love him. I've watched every show of Kevin Hart on Netflix, on YouTube. And he has even a podcast where he was hosting other comedians on there to go through their journey. And I was listening to that thing every day, just to see these comedians
to that podcast as well.
So I love it. I love comedians and their journey. And
there's something you mentioned about comedians and the ability to make people laugh. I think that's what separates comedians from funny people, because we all have friends who are funny. We all have friends who are like, man, that guy is funny, and you have these conversations with them and you're laughing. But then I keep telling people there's a very big difference between being a comedian and being funny, because now being a comedian becomes the professional side of being funny. So if you put the funny person on stage, they may not know their way around, making a crowd work. But then being a comedian now is the art form, is where now you learn the craft, you become, because now I mentor comedians, so I'm able to teach comedians to teach funny people how to become comedians. So being funny and thinking that you can become a comedian is like the first step. Like, you're funny, your friends keep telling you you're funny, and then give comedy a shot. So and then when you now start learning the art form of being a comedian, then you now become a comedian, a real comedian.
I think we're gonna get into this later on, but like, since it just came in my mind, let's talk about it right now. When you're talking about the different comedians, what's your take on people who are being vulgar, pretending to be funny? What do you think about that?
I wouldn't call it pretense, because I'm going to speak as a comedian and partly as a fan, because just using the example of our industry here, the shows you would consider to be vulgar are the shows that get the highest attendance. Doesn't that surprise you?
Yeah.
Or doesn't that speak into the kind of comedy that the audience is interested in? Because we have comedians like Pablo who do fresh and clean content. We have very many comedians out there, very many comedy spaces out there. But you will find that shows that are borderline, vulgar, fill up, and then, they get mass audiences. And then other shows that you'd consider, maybe they're less, we even have comedians who do
Christian comedy.
Christian comedy. We have Teacher Salfa, who does A Time to Laugh. We have comedians like the Mudasis. We have Benny MC. We have a comedian who does a show called Church Laughs. But yeah, so if you're asking for my take, me personally, I encourage comedians to be clean, because when you're clean, you can navigate any space.
Mm-hmm.
But if you learn only from the school of being vulgar, then when you go to a show and then they tell you, no, this show we don't allow cussing, we don't allow blue material, which is the vulgar content, then you don't know your way around that. So I always encourage my comedians, even when I'm mentoring them, to always strive to be clean.
Yeah.
Even at the comedy club, it's clean comedy. We don't allow vulgarity at the comedy club.
That makes sense. And like some people are like that. There are people who are fan of like they like it and they think it's funny, and some people don't. And that speaks to every because there's some people who say they don't like vulgar music, even in the music industry. Like when somebody sings a vulgar song, it gets like 1 million views, and then somebody sings an educative song and it gets like 20 or something small. But that's what the audience likes, and you can't really change what people want, I guess.
There's a reason why it's called creative art, because you're supposed to be creative. There are some comedians who can do a vulgar joke and then it will not even come off as vulgar, because they are creative in the way they churn it out. And then there are comedians who literally will just put it on the table the way it is, and then it just becomes a bit of
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So when we were talking about that, you touched on a comedy club, and you built one of Uganda's first comedy club, the Maraboustork, the Laughing Maraboustork. Why did you name the club Laughing Maraboustork? Why that name in every name and all the names that are out there?
So the Laughing Maraboustork, actually I first thought about Laughing Stock.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I looked it up, I think it was already taken or something, where there were very many things existing as Laughing Stock. So I was like, if I'm to round this off, where can I round it off to? And then also, our national emblem is the crested crane.
Mm-hmm.
But then I always ask people, when last did you see a crested crane? And very many people tell me, I think like 2 years ago. Some people even tell me like before COVID. And then, so I was like, so you've taken this long before seeing a crested crane, but you see a Maraboustork almost every day. Chances are high you interact with a Maraboustork every day. You see it somewhere. Chances are high it has even shat on you. So, so yeah, I ended up calling it the Laughing Maraboustork. Yeah, that is where that comes from.
That is funny because when you say that story, I lived close to a Rufula.
Yes.
Our church was near a Rufula. And you know, a Rufula, there was a lot of those Maraboustork. And they will shit on the roof of the church. They will be everywhere. My dad was making a joke that when I would misbehave, he would tell me that he picked me when Maraboustorks were going to... They dropped me off. He's like, those Maraboustork brought you when you were little and they dropped you off and I stole you from them.
Even at the university, there are very many trees, and then there are a lot of Maraboustorks, and then there is a myth that once a Maraboustork shits on you, you'll get a retake.
That's funny. Oh, what inspired you to open a comedy club in Uganda?
So I've been doing comedy since 2014. I started out with a group known as the Punchliners, which we co-founded with a bunch of other comedians. Arnold Mubinho, there was Lisha Juliet, there was Umar Gocha. We were about 15 at the time. And we started it at, For My Friend is where the Salvador started. But by then it was called Waikiki Lounge.
Waikiki, I remember Waikiki, yeah.
The reason why we started it is that we had attended a comedy clinic around about 6 months before we started it. We had attended the comedy clinic. Pablo had organized the comedy clinic that we attended. And then after attending, we thought he was going to put us on Pablo live and then we perform. Mm-hmm. But after the clinic, he was like, go into the world and venture. So we went into the world. We started now, trying to jump onto laughters, onto whatever comedy stages that were there. But, we were kind of like new and fresh and, they were telling us, come back next week and the other week and like that. So we were like, okay, this is taking forever. How about we get our own place and then we start a show? We start calling up people by ourselves and then we do this thing. So I formed that group called the Punchliners. And then it went on to produce some of the best comedians even to date. That is where Akite Agnes came from. There was Okelo Okelo comes from there. There is a comedian called Akao Jambo, who is South Sudanese right now, the biggest South Sudanese comedian, and very many other comedians. So we started the Punchliners, and then we must have done like a good 3 years, and then we became the feeder for Comedy Files. By then there was Comedy Files taking place. Yep. That's even how my mentorship began. Because when we started the Punchliners, very many comedians used to come and tell me, we used to do every Thursday. We used to have a show every Thursday. So comedians used to come to me like, I would love to jump onto your show. So we used to rehearse on Tuesdays. So I would tell them, come for our rehearsals, and then we go through your material, and then we fine tune it. If it's good to go, we shall put you on. If it's not good to go, then we shall guide you. And then I used to be in charge of those sessions. And then Comedy Files had opened up at around the same time. So, and then Omara Daniel was in charge of the creative team at Comedy Files. But by then he was so busy doing business unusual. So he solicited my help to help out with Comedy Files as well. So I begin now handling the creative team at Comedy Files as well. Then along the way, Cotilda had also started Queens of Comedy. So I started doing the mentorship as well for Queens of Comedy. So that one it also brought in some of the female comedians we have right now. So I've come a long way as a comedian, doing shows here and there. So when the Punchliners kind of like dissolved, because comedians grow wings, we became so good and started featuring on other people's shows, and then some others even created shows of their own. And then I also created another show of my own. At the time, it was called Funny Tuesday. It was a monthly show that used to happen at Big Mike's. So, things go down the way. And then when I was doing the mentorship for the Queens of Comedy with Cotilda, she was in charge of the creative team then for Anne Kansime. So she called me on board. So I began doing, I became part of Anne's team. And then also by then, Anne used to have a bar called Kobe's. So we started up an open mic at Kobe's, which open mic also went ahead to bring in a whole other bunch of comedians that you guys see currently. Again, through the mentorship program. So the Uncle Max, the Hilary Okelos, Don Andres, very many good comedians. Most of them came through Kobe's. So I started doing that. And then after a while, I think it was after like 2 years, Kobe's also closed, because I think by then it was partly owned. It was co-owned by Anne and the guy then. And then when they eventually part ways, they split. Kobe's also closed, and then we hung around for a bit. So I kept thinking, I think I need to create a space that where someone can come and be guaranteed that they're going to come and watch comedy here. Because I noticed the Ugandan industry, the way it was operating, comedy was mainly in bars. And then bars is not really where I used to see myself, because when you're performing in a bar, there's a pool table, there are guys on the pool table. If there's a football game going on, and then it becomes a distraction. Some bars are so heavy on the alcohol, and then sometimes you find, hecklers and all these things. Inside me, I had this burning sensation to create a space where someone can come and be guaranteed that they're going to watch comedy fully. So I fell in love with the art of comedy clubs. I had been fortunate enough to travel to South Africa, and when I was in South Africa, I performed at the Goliath Comedy Club, and then I also visited Parker's, which was also a comedy club. And then I kept seeing these spaces. I read about comedy clubs and kind of like how they operate. And then I was like, yeah, I think what I need to create is a comedy club.
Yeah.
So for like the past 5 years, I've always been out there looking for a space. And then fortunately, when I reached out to the good people at Donnell's Bistro, they bought in on my idea. We put our heads together. I assembled what I consider to be the best comedy team that I'm currently working with, because it has Cotilda Inapo, who is a legend in the game. She started with the
She is amazing.
The Crackers. She's amazing.
I watched Cotilda when I was at La Bonita, and it was amazing. I think it was the Comedy Files then. She's really amazing.
She did a one-woman show earlier on in there. Cotilda once said, and then she's doing another show. 1st August, she will be doing another show. So I'm working with Cotilda. I together on my team. There's Hilary Okello, who is the best comedian currently in Uganda.
Okay.
Then I have Okello, who is the guy behind the comedy Black Friday, which is also a big show. So I put together a very good team, managed to convince the management, and then as of March this year, we opened the space, and now we are running the first ever comedy club in Uganda.
There's a lot of people who love comedy, and there's a lot of people who love pure comedy. There's a lot of people who, like you said, comedy being in a bar, there's a lot of distractions. Like, you can't do something and put it in a noisy place if you want to deliver something. You want to have people's attention and everything, then give them a good show.
And also what happened was, you see, comedy is an attention span demanding art form, which is also something I learned earlier on in my career. The first show I ever performed, when I was telling you that I put together my 5 minutes, I used to have friends of mine who used to play in a band called Novel Band. Mm-hmm. So they used to play at Barbecue Lounge in Centenary Park. So I went on one of their nights. They were doing their live band. So I was like, they used to take a break at around 9:30. They take a 15-minute break, and then they come back, and then they do a 40 minutes to close out the night. So I was like, is it possible for me to jump on and do a spot? They were like, yeah, feel free, jump on. And then I performed, and then I died.
Yeah.
I died. But what that taught me, I wasn't dying because my jokes were not funny. I was dying because the crowd was there to watch live band. So to them, they were like, what is this guy even doing? Mm-hmm. You get it? So that's the lesson I learned earlier on in my life, is that comedy needs to be performed to a comedy audience, to people who are expecting comedy. When you go to a bar and then you're performing, and then there's a couple in the corner who have come on their own date, you become an inconvenience. They're like, when can this guy get done with whatever he's doing? And then we have our cat talk here, and then things like that. And then some bars, someone is there to watch football. So your comedy is a distraction to is interfering with his ability to watch football. So when I put all that together, I was like, I just need to create a space where someone is going to come, he has left home, or someone has had a long day at work, and is just here to laugh. And then
exactly.
There are comedy shows that go on for hours and hours. You find the show has stretched into midnight, 1 a.m. And then the more the show goes on, the more the attention span reduces, and the more people drink, and then the crowd becomes rowdy. So even at the comedy club, our shows begin at 7:30, and then by 10, we are wrapping the show up. So you're going to come and enjoy a show for 2 hours, and then that's it.
That is really good, and I really love this idea, and I'm glad we're talking about it, because a lot of people who love comedy. I do love comedy. But when I go to comedy, and like the things you already said, like when I go to comedy and then there's other things, it's a distraction. I want to go there because I'm going for comedy. Like that's what Salvador was talking about. Like now comedy is being affected because of the music industry coming into comedy, because now they headline the music artists, and some guys is coming to watch Chameleon. But the same show, we're going to have Timothy. And then this guy who came to watch Chameleon, he's going to be the one talking when you're trying to make your jokes in the back, because he came for the artist, and that will kill a person's show. It will be a disruption for other people who are there to watch the comedy. So that's really good that you said this.
But I also understand the need for it, because I've had these talks before, and you will find that the people who do this, when they do a lineup that has only comedians, they don't break even. But then when they put on musicians, they are able to get returns on their money. So it's a bit of, okay, do that if that's what you want to do, if that's what gets you the money. And then on my side, I'm also like, okay, I'll also have my show where it's fully fledged comedy. And then if someone wants to come through for the comedy, then well and good. If someone wants to, do the comedy and then at the end of the night be able to watch maybe a Shiba Karunji or maybe a Chameleon, then they also have an option for that.
So you mentioned you started March. What has been the response so far since March from the people?
The response has been amazing. We had a show that opened called Opening the Stock that we did as the grand opening, and the show sold out plus.
Nice.
It's actually not a very big venue. It sits around 70 people.
Okay.
But when we hit 70 tickets, I went online to close the tab. And then just in that moment where I was just about to close the tab, I don't know where like some other 15 people bought tickets from.
Mm-hmm.
And then it ended up even being like 85 people in a room. But yeah, it was very amazing. And then when we started operating, we started running 3 shows a week. So we have our Tuesday show called Joke the Week, where basically we just get topics that are trended during the week and then make fun of them.
Yeah.
So that show is free entrance. So the audience can come through and enjoy comedy and then get a chance to experience the space, see where the Donnell's Bistro is located, and then familiarize themselves with everything. And then Thursdays and Fridays, we used to have our headline show called Live at the Stock, which we used to do on Friday. So very many people have headlined. Hilary Okello has headlined, Cotilda, Napoleon, Agnes Akite. We recently had Arnold Xavier from Kenya. And then on Thursday was our theme shows. So we kind of have these theme shows that I had my theme show, Timothy J and Comedians That Think Are His Friends. Then we've had 2 Okellos Are Better Than One before that featured both the Okellos. Then we have a Vanactacular show. The club is 90% English, but we have a Vanactacular show once a month that is that has these amazing Uganda acts that we work with. Then there's Dumb Questions for Cool People, which is a show that I do with a comedian called Don Andre and Jacques, which is also one of the shows that people have responded to. Very, very amazing attendance, Dumb Questions for Cool People. So yeah, the response has been amazing. But as of last month, we cut the shows down to 2. So now we run 2 shows a week. Yeah, so it's the Tuesday and Thursday. The Tuesday is the free entrance, but some Tuesdays we still juggle them up and we put like a paid show. So right now we are even having a roast battle coming up at the end of this month. Nice. We're going to have our first ever roast battle. Guys, it's going to be very amazing.
This podcast is mainly for people who are in love in comedy. Like me, I do.
Yeah.
It's not even a hype. It's not that because you're on the podcast. Personally, I do love comedy. I do love comedy because just like I tell poets when I host them on the podcast, comedy makes me laugh and makes me go to another space, like forget you have problems, forget you have this, and you just laugh. It's until it stops. It's like, hey, like things like that. Like I didn't eat food.
Comedy also has the ability to teach culture.
Yeah.
So I follow a lot of South African comedy, and I've learned a lot about their culture through interacting with comedians.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of what I know about Kenya, a huge percentage of that is also through the comedians that I interface with. Part of what I know even about America is through comedy, because when you look at my favorite comedians, Michael Che, who is a very brilliant comedian, he did a special called Michael Che Matters. So you get to learn all these things about police shootings and all these divorce
politics
and prenups and all these things. And yeah, so comedy for me, I've been to very many countries through comedy, but yeah.
Anyway, you name dropped legend in comedy, and you working for this legend, it makes you really, really special, because we see these skits coming out, these like the roast coming out. Anne Kansime and Salvador were here, and they were name dropping you, Timothy Nyanzi, who is behind of these jokes that came up even on the roast, and it was amazing. But how did you first link up with Anne Kansime to start writing for her?
So linking up with Anne Kansime was through Cotilda, because I used to mentor the queens of comedy. I used to do mentorship for her. So she was familiar with my game, and by then she was the head of creative for Anne Kansime. So she recommended me to join the team, and then that's how I ended up meeting Anne Kansime. And then since then on, I think that was around 2017. So since then, I've been part of her team. I started out doing writing for the Don't Mess With Kansime. So the skits, so they were very, very amazing. And then we always also, as the creative team, we also, we also develop all the sets together, even things like the stand-up. We always, come up with ideas, and we build them, and we eventually, that is part of what becomes the material.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to get there through Cotilda. And then when I got there, Anne is also a very crazy person. She has all these beautiful and random ideas. I actually ended up learning a lot of professionalism from Anne.
Shout out to Anne Kansime.
I was working with a person who has been all over the world, and I was experiencing first-hand professionalism. Because by then, what shocked me was that by then Anne used to even shoot like 25 skits in a day. Can you imagine?
Wow. Yeah.
Like we would go on set, and then we wrap up the set by like 2, or by around 2 we've shot 25 skits.
Wow.
But now, of course, she has become a mother, and then, responsibilities and this and that. So that's how I end up being part of Anne Kansime's team. And fast forward a bit, DSTV brings her on board to do the reality show. I end up also being part of the reality show.
Nice.
Which was also another amazing experience. And then the reality show actually was new waters for me.
Yeah.
And a very big question I've always got is I thought it's a reality show. why then does it need writers?
Yeah.
But what people don't get to understand is that in as much as it's a reality show, an episode only runs for 22-23 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So the writing is basically supposed to streamline the day or even a period, and then create what you would consider a good episode. So the writing basically, for example, we are there to we do what is called guided writing. For example, if she's going to go, there's an episode where she went for blankets and wine. We're like, okay, this could be good for us to get something here and then feature it on the reality show. There's an episode where she went to the backpackers. We were like, okay, I think we could get some stuff from the backpackers and have them feature in the show. So as the creative team, that was pretty much part of like our role towards creating for that show. And then Anne has always wanted to do a roast, like for as long as I can remember, for like as long as 5 years ago, she has already talked about a roast. And I'm like, okay, we should definitely do this thing. So I think this year, things just align together, because sometimes you hold on to doing projects maybe because the sponsors have not yet, you've not yet gotten enough magnitude sponsors wise, or maybe things like finances, or maybe even you might be going through a phase. Maybe you have now given birth and you're now a mother, and then things are happening. But then I think this year all the boxes were, were checked off the list, and we're like, okay, guys, we are doing this thing. And then we met as the creative team. We brought on a few other guys. We had Napoleon, we had Hilary Okello, we had Don Andre. Don Andre is also part of the creative team. We had Omara is part of the creative team. And then we were like, okay, guys, we are doing this. And it was amazing seeing it come together. And we also had to, kind of like come up with who was going to be on the panel.
I want to ask you from right there. I want to ask you a question. How did you guys pick on which joke would work best for this person? Because you had a lot of panelists. And when you were writing, how were you like saying, okay, this joke would be nice for GNL Zamba, this joke would be nice for Salvador, this joke, I don't know if you wrote for Miriam Matembe as well, or she just did a live what?
So what happened was we came up with a panel first. Actually, we first came up with, what can I say, with spheres first. We were like, okay, I think let's have a musician on board. Let's have one person coming from the musical sphere. Then let's have one person from the political side. Let's have one person from the social circle, maybe like a socialite. So let's have comedians on board. So that's why now we started zeroing down onto the rosters. And then some of the rosters were really a no debate, because now Miriam Matembe is like, Miriam Matembe was just nailed
Freestyle.
on. From the musical world, we ended up getting GNL Zamba. We looked into the media space. We ended up getting Prima Simwe. We ended up looking in the movie world. We ended up getting Nana Kaga. So when you get the rosters, it helps you also in what material you're going to create. And also, we were looking at rosters who also have what we call fodder. People who have things you can chew on. So for example, like now Gaetano has a huge story. This is a guy who was on Big Brother.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what he did on Big Brother. Then he's a radio personality. He has been on East Africa's Got Talent. He has been on Tasker Project Fame. So a person like that has plenty that, we can pick on. Then we had Sheila Gashumba, who is also a whole other different person of our own.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we had to check on the availability, on whether the rosters are available, because there are people we contacted and they were not in Uganda at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the panel first, and then after getting the panel, then we sat down. We had multiple sessions. I think we used to meet like, we prepped for like 4 months. We prepped for like 4 months, and then we used to meet like twice a week. So we used to come up with roasts, and then we first came up with like roasts first. Mm-hmm. And then now, of course, behind those roasts, we read people's profiles. Like now, Tindi was supposed to be part of the roast, but she ended up also not coming. She got some stuff which held up. So it was a lot of research went into doing the roast. Now you find a person like Nana Kaga, who was a very big CV. She has been to Hollywood. She has studied from the UK. There are even things we never knew about Nana, but the more we dug into these things. So the first 3 months, we used them to do that. The first month was for, doing the research. And then now we started writing the roasts. And then after writing the roasts, we're like, okay, I think this would be something that perhaps would fit in well for GNL. So maybe this is something we could see Prim saying, then this is something, and then like that. And then in the final month, the preps of the final month were for meeting the panelists themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we met the panelists, it also now, like when you're going from the alphabet, when you're running through the alphabet from like A, if we're like on M, the moment we met the panelists, it again just went up in a whole lot higher, because the panelists themselves were now giving us even more things to use, more weapons to use. Right. And then when you meet the panelists, you get to find out that, okay, so Gaetano is actually Nana's cousin. So all those things we're finding out from when we are interacting with the panelists. So you get to interact with Prima Simwe, and then you find out that Salvador is like the godfather of the daughter, and then so interacting with the with the panelists themselves also now gave us a whole other now source of material that we ended up also using. We ended up meeting Miriam Matembe. Miriam Matembe didn't even know what a roast is. She was like, "What does Anne need me for?" We were like, we were like, okay, there's this thing, it's called the roast, and we put her up to speed. We're like, okay, this is how it works. It's like a friendly fire. Like, we are going to have a chance to appreciate Anne Kansime, to give her flowers. But while we are giving her those flowers, we are not just doing it with all this beauty and glamour, but we are using our comedy prowess and what in Uganda they call kujerega, and smearing butter on it, but in a funny way. So the more we explained, the more she started falling in line. And then we even showed her, she didn't even know who GNL was. And then we showed her the picture of GNL. She was like, oh, so this is GNL. We were like, okay, now you see GNL, you could literally pick on the hair and say something. She was like, hey, I'm allowed to say that. We're like, yes, you're allowed. And then there are some panelists who had reservations about the things we had written. But we were like, okay, you have reservations about this, but if we told you what this other person has prepared to say about you, then this is not, then we're like, what? Then I'm in, I will say that. So it was a very amazing.
Like you created a fire in different people.
It was a very amazing experience. The only glitch is that we didn't manage the time a bit better. So some of the panelists ended up, eating up much time than we had anticipated. And then other panelists ended up having less time. But it was a very amazing experience. We even have roasts that we ended up not using. One of these days, we are just going to do a video of the top 20 roasts that were never said at the Ankansime Grill.
I asked Salvador, what's a roaster? Because I know he was one of the people that got caught up with time. And he roasted GNL Zamba. And I don't know if you watched that clip when I had.
Yeah, I watched it.
He roasted GNL.
Yeah.
But no, this is a concept that I really love. Again, it goes to my love for comedy. And when I had Ankansime here before the roast, I was telling her how I felt so bad that I was not in Uganda because I just finished the roast of Tom Brady. It was on Netflix too, where they brought all the Kim Kardashian. Like you guys did bring the socialites, bring the comedians. Kevin Hart was there. A lot of people were there. And it was just a joy to see this happening in Uganda. And I can't wait. I heard that they're going to be doing this annual thing. And even like the roast battles that you said that your comedy club that will be there. Comedy is funny. Comedy is fun. Yeah. And it is something that everybody should experience. And since you have a free show, anybody who is tuning in, you're in Uganda, Toinabi Akola every Tuesday, or like you just come out of work, there's opportunity for this comedy club. Can you tell the listeners where this comedy club is located? Or where they can check it out to find out what's going on?
So the comedy club is called the Laughing Maraboustork. And it's at a place called Donnell's Bistro in Ntinda. So Donnell's Bistro is located slightly opposite Capital Shoppers in Ntinda.
Okay. And
we have shows. We run shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And our tickets are at laughingmaraboustork.com. We are on social media. We are on Instagram. We are on X, and then we are on Facebook. You can check us out there. And then you keep tabs with the comedy club.
Anyway, we're coming close to the end of this podcast because we already passed 1 hour. But I have a few questions about the industry itself. I know we touched on one already to give your take. What do you think Uganda's comedy industry is right now? What state are you guys at?
Just like Matia Kasaija, the Uganda's comedy industry is yeah, I think we are on a level I would like to call takeoff.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at how comedy has transcended, the Salvadors were the first generation. I call them the first generation comedians. Salvador with his mic check. All the comedians, those were the first generation. Then we had the second generation there that had the Mukebetes, the Van Mook, the Smart Ayocha, Ronnie McVex. And then we had our generation from the Punchliner times. And then there's like a new crop of comedians as well. So comedy is on a level of takeoff because back then, there were no one-man shows, for example. And right now, we have a lot of comedians doing one-man shows. Then secondly, comedy has always been a thing of Kampala alone. And then maybe a few regions here, Jinja, like one Kasho in Jinja, maybe Mbarara and things like that. But currently, comedy has started spreading its wings. So even last year, the Salvadors were on tour. They did the Kings of Comedy tour, which went to as far as Arua. They did Gulu. They did all those upcountry places, the Soroti, Mbarara, Jinja. And then, you find that now we have a comedy club. And if and now the rate at which comedians are going to grow, because as a comedian you have to be on stage very often for you to get better. So with the comedy club, there's a space for comedians. There's a chance for comedians to get on stage as many times as they want. So even the growth right now is so much. So I can afford to say that the comedy industry is taking off. Our brothers in Kenya, last year they had Dave Chappelle coming through, and it's because he looked out some of the comedy clubs that they have and he was pleased with what he had seen. So who knows, with what we have started, who knows, we are trying to create an ecosystem in East Africa where a comedian can, if a comedian wants to do an East African tour, then we have the systems in place, we have the structures in place. So yeah, we are taking off.
I don't want to put pressure on it because you've just answered where we are. But I had a question here that says, compared to Kenya, South Africa, or Nigeria, where do we rank?
Factoring in every aspect of comedy, I would say South Africa and Kenya might be slightly ahead of us. Their industries are more developed. And by developed, I mean even just the number of comedians, the number of comedy spaces. Because, for example, in the lowest level of doing comedy is the open mic level.
Yeah.
Now, in Uganda, we suffer a lot from lack of open mic rooms. So there's very limited open mic rooms. And yet when you compare us to some of these countries you've mentioned, the open mic scenes are so grown that you find an open mic filling up with like 100 people on a Wednesday. And like you find on a Wednesday, there are like 3 other open mics taking place and they have all filled up. So if I'm to compare, I would say South Africa and Kenya are slightly ahead of us. You find that South Africa and Kenya, they've grown so much that you find even international comedians jetting in. Kenya, for instance, has had Hannibal Buress going to do shows there. I think they have Anissa Nandaula performing there soon. I think like next week or something. They have the Nairobi Comedy Festival. Speaking of which, we also have a festival coming up in September.
Let's go.
Yeah. So there's the Joburg Comedy Festival. And then when you look at South Africa, comedy is developed like in Joburg, in Durban, in Cape Town. These are all very good comedy scenes versus Uganda, where we have Kampala being the hub, and then other places are just picking up slowly.
We'll definitely get there, and that's just like the way I said, I don't want to push pressure to it because you guys are already doing what we need to do to get to where we want to do. So I know we're on the right track, and just a matter of time, we're going to get there. But this will be the last question I can ask that, because these guys have a role to play in it. What role can fans play in growing this scene or getting to where the South Africa is, the Kenya is? What role can the Ugandan fans play to get us there?
The number one role the fans can play is coming out to the shows. That is like the main role that the fans can play. Come out to the shows, support comedy when comedians have announced shows and projects that are coming up. Support these shows, because it's through supporting us that we are going to get the energy and the zeal to keep doing this thing. So whenever you see a comedy show, please, once in a while, take some time off, hit up a comedy club, hit up a comedy show. Take a friend with you, spread the word. If you came through, you had fun, next time don't come alone. Invite a friend, invite a workmate, invite a colleague. And the industry will get there. Will definitely get there.
I believe. And we got a role to play as fans too. If we want our industry to be better, we got to take part in it. Like, share their work. When you see it on Instagram, that takes them a long way. And so that marks the end of our segments, but we always finish the podcast with a rapid fire questions. And this one, you answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. You don't have to explain this one. First joke you ever wrote?
Must have been about my dad and something to do with DNA test.
You didn't even tell it to me, but I laughed because I think that would be funny.
Yeah.
A comedian you'd love to collaborate with?
I would say Trevor Noah.
He's a good one.
Opening for Trevor Noah would be great.
Most unforgettable performance venue?
I think it was the Kenyan tour, the shows that I did in Kenya. I did a tour in Kenya where I performed in Mombasa, performed in multiple venues in Nairobi. So the Kenyan shows were really, really amazing for me.
Is that the border around? Was it the border? Was it the one called?
Yeah, they're around the border.
Around the border
Yes.
tour? Okay, that's amazing.
Very amazing tour.
One word to describe Uganda's comedy industry today.
Is take off one word?
Yeah, I'll take that as one word. Take off.
Yeah. Take off.
Dream project you haven't done yet.
I think an international festival.
Yeah.
I would wish to play Just for Laughs Festival, Netflix is a Joke Festival, all these amazing festivals, the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. So playing on any of those would be.
We always wrap up with final three. These are questions I ask everybody. They're all the same. What's a life lesson you've learned in life to this point?
A life lesson I've learned in life is to chase happiness.
Chase happiness. Yeah.
Many times as people, we chase after money, but the end goal of having money is to create convenience in life.
Yeah.
And also, money equals to happiness. So the equal sign is the equal sign is literally means what's on this other side is also on this other side. So when you chase happiness, there's a certain kind of satisfaction that comes out of that. To a point where you are happy and satisfied as a person. So I've learned how to chase after happiness and be grateful in life.
Be grateful in life. What gets you excited about life?
Success.
Success.
For me, trying to achieve my goals and going out every day, each and every day to become a better person keeps me excited and going.
Thank you very much, Mr. Timothy. And then the signature question is, who would you like to see on this podcast next as a guest? And you will help me to get a person here.
I will definitely have to say, and now that you've mentioned that you've been a fan of hers, I will definitely have to say Cotilda Inapo.
I was going to say, I'm going to be biased. I want Cotilda, but yeah, you got to where I wanted to go. Cotilda Inapo, please bring Cotilda here.
Yeah.
I want to have a conversation. I'm a fan of Cotilda. That would be amazing. Anyway, for the listeners, again, I want to ask you, follow this podcast, subscribe, like, share, comment, because that's how we grow and that's how the word gets to other people. We'll bring the guests here so you can listen to them when you enjoy this podcast. Share with a friend, send it to somebody, drop in any WhatsApp groups you're in so other people can share the fun. Don't forget to check out the Laughing Maraboustork, their website, their Instagram, social media, on X, everywhere. Just Google it and find out the information. So once again, Mr. Timothy J. Nyanzi, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. And enjoy the rest of your time outside.
Hey there, my name is Bonnie Chibuka, the podcast host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Also, leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. Thank you very much and be blessed.
Hello guys, my name is Timothy J. Nyanzi, a stand-up comedian here on the Ugandan Boy Podcast. Amazing. We're going to talk about the Laughing Maraboustork, which is the first ever comedy club in Uganda. We are going to talk about my comedy journey, working with Anne Kansime on the roast, on her creative team, and very many amazing things. So tune in and tell as many people to tune in, and then let's have a good time.
Wikibomba sana wapi ndulu wewe. Thank you very much, Timothy.